and welcome everyone. This is Bedashi Das from the CSR Universe, a platform dedicated to discussing the most important aspects of sustainability and corporate social responsibility. Today, we are here to deep dive into an engaging conversation on the tech for good space. We have with us the three founders of Pune-based social tech startup, Metta Social, Mr. Vishal Naik, Mr. Iftekhar Pathan, Captain Anil Dhankher. Welcome to the CSR Universe channel, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Now, before we get started, I'd like to share a short background of Metta Social. It is a tech for good company dedicated to leveraging technology for social good and supporting purpose-driven companies in achieving both social and business goals. Founded in 2020, they have partnered with 600 plus NGOs across India and impacted 120,000 beneficiaries through their initiatives in healthcare, education, livelihood, environment, agriculture, and so on. It is great to have all the founders of Metta Social join us today. Let's start with the discussion, shall we? So first, all three of you come from diverse backgrounds. Mr. Naik, you're from tech. Mr. Pathan from advertising and marketing, and Captain Dhankher, you have a lot of experience in human resource management. So what inspired you to come together and create a tech-driven platform for social impact, especially in the CSR and volunteering space? And B, how does the leadership team's diverse backgrounds contribute to the platform's success?
Yes, I think it's very interesting how we came together, definitely from diverse backgrounds and didn't really intend to come together. So I think I come from a tech background, and when I quit, I was looking to start something on a tech. I was quite interested in edutech, and that's where I started the journey. And a very close friend of mine, I've worked in London, is a brother mentor, was also in town when I quit the same month. And he said, I have another crazy friend who happens to be my childhood friend, and I think you two should meet. And that was Iftekhar Pathan. And,
wow.
And he came from a healthcare background. He has done a few social projects and other aspects. And we really met for a casual coffee, and I think the conversation was really good. And we thought, okay, we can do something together. And we really he's very passionate about education as well. And we said, okay, let's figure that into a edutech, this thing. And Captain happens to be Iftekhar's friend. He was not in the picture, and we were invited through one of Iftekhar's connect with their foundation, which is Rajnikant's foundation. They heard that we are in education, we know technology. They wanted an application to be done. Mm-hmm. And they're funded by very large organizations like Cola, TCS, and they work with hundreds of grassroots level NGOs. And we went there, and it was for a tech in education, and we didn't know what to really do with that. But I think the project eventually didn't happen. I think TCS came and said they'll do free, and we said we'll do pro bono support for that. But that gave us, both Iftekhar and I, an exposure that there's a big social world, and I come from a bit of consulting background. So we said, let's research about that. And we found there's a world within a world, which is social. And my technology experience, the experience of healthcare and sales and marketing that Iftekhar gets, can come together. And I think that's where we started working on the idea, researching really in terms. And when we were doing that, of course, I'm a techie, so I quickly built something in 3 months and started going to people. And we realized this is really something which is not right, not working, and we have to redo. And that's the time I discussed with Iftekhar. I said, I think the space is right. We have to really go out to people, build it in a way where it's very scalable. Do you know someone who's worked with startups? Because this was my first startup and something we can come together. He said, yes, I know a friend who works with a lot of startups, come from a corporate background. And that's where I got introduced to Captain Anil. And I still remember in the first meeting, he said, why are you trying to do something in social? And you come from, I used to run a AI machine learning practice as part of the CIO group in Amdocs.
Okay.
And he said, Iftekhar comes from healthcare. Why don't you do something there? So I think Iftekhar and I had decided that we'll do this, and this is something we really want to do, something which can be good, and there is a business element to that. And I think Captain came in initially as a consultant. I think he got hooked onto it. He never wanted to join full-time any organization. He was working with very large startups as a consultant. And that's how the journey started. And we thought it was a perfect mix because I come from a technology background. Iftekhar knows the sales and marketing. Captain came from a HR who happens to be our customers and this thing, and already was mentoring about 5 to 10 large to small NGOs in
Wow.
the space. So that's how it happened. Iftekhar, Captain, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, no. So your question was how we are from disparate backgrounds, but I think the core that binds us, or the umbilical cord that I call, is of a set of values. So all of us are small town boys, if you like. So we've all grown up in smaller towns, and we've always had this aspiration to sort of do something good. So we came from humble backgrounds. We came from
Yes.
middle class families and dreaming big, and we went out, we got our education, we eked out a living while we were sort of getting our education also. Speaking on behalf of also Vishal and Anil. So we've all actually gone through the rigor of life, and we've grown from bottom up. And all of us generally thought that we have now been there, done that, worked in different corporates, different geographies around the globe. It's time to give back. One of the things,
Yes.
like Vishal was saying, when Vishal came back, he was actually wanting to change the world. And, I was involved in a couple of activities, initiatives with a few governments within India and outside. Anil has been working extremely hard and assiduously with a lot of non-profit organizations. So we said, let's get together. And initially we toyed with the idea of starting a foundation. We thought, let's start a foundation. But both my partners are very good at numbers and research. And they said, oh, Iftekhar, look, there are 33 lakh foundation. Do you want to start another one? And that set me thinking. And we then spent a lot of hours and said, why not start a social purpose organization? So the idea was whatever corporate learning that we had, not just in the country, but outside the country in the different capacities that we worked. And collectively, I think we have 150 years of experience between us. We said all that learning should be got to the development sector, because there are a lot of gaps that we could definitely fill. So we decided to start Metta Social then, which is with the primacy of intent and something that we could impact the society at large. So all of us dreamt all the time, and still do that with the entire team, that you should be able to put your head to the pillow thinking that you've made a difference. And that is a single thing that keeps driving all of us, and maybe leave smudgy thumbprints on the pages of history. So that really drives us. And that's how it started. One other point, which also Vishal made, is it was just serendipity. It was fortunate happenstance, like you call it, within the meeting that we had with the
Yeah.
Rajnikant. It just happened there that we decided, oh, this is what we need to do. And these are the problems that the non-profit world or the development sector faces. And also, if you look at the world, the way it's going right now, the Save the Earth narrative, I think someone like us working with the non-profit organizations, aligning with the SDG goals, helping in nation building, guiding the corporates to sort of help move the needle on the ground. These are the things I think were responsible for us to, get into starting Metta Social. Anil, please.
Thank you so much. That had so much heart, so encouraging, so inspiring. Um, we'll move ahead with the next question. Given Meta Social's focus on end-to-end CSR management, what specific gaps in the CSR ecosystem are you addressing? And how has your SaaS platform, SocioXN, transformed the way corporates approach social responsibility?
Vishal, you want to go on that? Or?
Yeah, Iftekhar, you can start.
Okay, no worries. So what happened actually, that 2013, 14, we were the first country to be mandated to do CSR, right? So there were some of the groups like Tata which were already doing it, but most of the corporate India was not doing what it is. If you look at the business pyramid also, one of the important part is to do good to the society or the community that you work within. It started off like that, but most people in our experience thought that it was perforce. So the sanctity of doing CSR was lost somewhere. And now that you had to do it, not the best of the resources, with all due respect, were allotted to doing the CSR bit. But over the years, it has obviously changed. When we speak to corporates, they say that now that we're doing it, why not do it properly? Now that we're doing it, is there any business advantage in doing it? Now that we're doing it, why don't we, do the compliance right and make sure that it's not just greenwashing, but we do some goodness to the society that we live in. So that's where all that started off. But today, if you look at it, the CSR has become a board mandate. CSR is a precursor to ESG. We are talking about climate change. We are talking about so many perils that the world is now facing. So when this has now gone to the board, people are now taking it more seriously. So it's not anymore a dilettantish indulgence. It's not touch and go. Now the corporates are looking at it very circumspectly, and they want to make a difference to the social initiatives that they take. That's where we come in. So it's not handling on, say you pick up a project that's happening in whatever area. So there are a lot of things now, starting with how do you strategize your CSR, aligning to your business? How do you create proposals? What themes do you work on? Which non-profit organization should we work on? Do they have the capacity to do it? Which areas are they good at? Are they working pan-India? If we do a project, say, in the aspirational district or the district where we want to grow the business or work with demographics that we are aspiring to do as a business, how do you align the social mission to the business goals? These are the questions that the board today is asking. That's where I think the intervention of the platform like SocioXN has come in. And it is where by using SocioXN, we are helping that. How we are doing that is by streamlining this entire process. So there is a tangible bit to it and there is an intangible bit to it. So the tangible bit of actually doing the processes right, selecting and curating the right. So we call it C2I cycle: curation, monitoring, evaluation, impact measurement, and in some cases, SROI, which is the social return on investment. So we have mapped this full stack process, and this is what we are taking to the corporates to help them do the CSR right, to help them address the issues on ground, their own sustainability, and the sustainability going forward and looking at the ESG as a larger bit that we're looking at. So this is what we're doing and creating actual impact on ground. And that's the gap, I think, by using technology we're getting. If you look at the last mile, lot of data collection there, or the methodology of how to do it, all that program management using tech, which was not there earlier, is what Metta Social gets. Strategizing it right, aligning it to the business goals, using goodness as a business advantage. So that platform tangibly does the processes right, helps the needle move, but intangibly helps you do these larger things which the corporate is aspiring to do. Vishal, if you'd like to add something.
I think really well said, Iftekhar. And I think curation to impact is the focus of Social Next, right? From curating, as Iftekhar said, how do you streamline that? Because both for the NGOs and the corporates, very difficult to understand what kind of documents, what are the risks that we should assess with the nonprofit we want to work, what is the capacity. So if I give a 50 lakhs grant, they say, yes, they're amazing, but then can they execute? Will there be a misuse? So we do that in a very technology-led manner, supported by, we have a 15, 20 member social sector experts who really understand, including lawyers and financial experts who can come and help. And then the whole project management aspect of it, what was proposed versus what is actually happening on ground, to the last mile data connection in terms of getting that from a mobile medical unit, or how do you do that? And I think the most important is, I think corporates struggle to put that. And there is a restriction of 5% kind of CSR admin cost and other aspect. So we bring in this, all the automation and the strategy and the execution at an affordable price in a SaaS format to the corporates. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We'll move on to the third question. With Meta Social working across sectors like healthcare and education and livelihood and environment sustainability, could you highlight how your approach ensures scalability and long-term sustainability for these projects? Because that's something that a lot of companies struggle with, right?
Absolutely. Vishal, you want to go or should I?
Yeah, good.
Okay, no worries. So if you look at CSR per se, it is, we started with this platform and it was a great learning with SocioXN. Though we are being able to help a lot of corporates with, funding their social projects, what we very soon in the last 3 years realized that CSR per se is, it's a not a sustainable option of funding. So, and you can't have a project, not, if you look at projects, normally they're 2 to 3 to 5 years if you want to create real impact. So Meta Social, we thought that we should have unrestricted and sustainable funding. So look at all the different themes that one works in. So we have decided to work in 5 themes and it covers pretty much, so we are agnostic to SDG goals, but the 5 themes that Meta Social has taken onto working on cover pretty much all of those in some way. So that gives us the advantage, or rather gives our corporates the advantage to choose from these projects. Second thing is, like, when you're actually deploying these projects, you need to really look at it really very, very circumspectly. And that's where the idea came that let's look at employee giving piece. I give, which is our other platform. There, what are you getting is unrestricted funding. 2 things we gave to the employees, which no one else, and I say it with huge responsibility. One is choice. So every day, if you look into the corporates and you have experience as well, the same hackneyed and tried thing of going and planting trees. Now people are sick of that. I mean, you know how it is, going and painting a wall. So we needed to give a choice to these people, so the employees, because you like animal welfare, I like geriatrics, Anil likes maybe space. So we give you themes that you like, not that we are divorcing the themes that the companies already has a legacy in working with, but at the same time, we are giving you a choice, personal choice. So one is to create the choice. What Meta Social did is we needed to have at least a few thousand missions in the country. So we curated those missions. We have maybe around 3,000 missions right now, pan India. So what that gives you, one is choice and a hyperlocal model, which by using tech that you get. So imagine you're sitting in a location, for example, in Mumbai, you have 2 different locations. So location A and B. And as an employee, I give you a choice today that you could either walk or drive to that mission. And the other is that we give you a catalog of what you like. So by doing this intervention, working with behavioral scientists, working with the non-profit organizations, creating a hyper-local model, we have been able to get to getting a sustainable funding options to the non-profit organizations. So it's a win-win also for the employees and for the non-profit organizations who are today dying to look at, sustainable funding and unrestricted funding, because CSR is a little stifling to a certain level. So it says X percentage is not allowed to be put in this. Every penny has to go into the social project that you're doing, and so on and so forth. So that's the way we have worked with various themes that cover most of the SDGs, then the second model of giving choice and hyperlocal model, and then a pan-India presence, which most people don't have today. Vishal, you want to add something?
No, I think very important aspect when we started talking to even large foundations who are doing tens of millions this thing to grassroots level NGOs, what we found is they struggle to get funds, right? Or struggle to sustain. They have a certain things. And I think this is where we thought one is really looking at for those NGOs, not just a funding from corporate, they should always have a choice of like 2 to 3 years where there are partners lined up to work with them. So it supports a 3 to 5 year mission from a CSR perspective. Second is, again, from a sustainability perspective, just another aspect to what Iftekhar added is one is having funding. Second is being able to use that for capacity building. And most of the CSR or international grants are very restrictive in nature. So we thought I give as an employee giving, whether it's come from HNIs, employees, retail users, really opens up that, because you can use to, one, fund the project, and second, start building your capacity. Because unlike other organizations, nonprofits are look like they just have to work on some social good, but they are an organization just like another nonprofit. They just happen to be a nonprofit. They need an HR, they need a business partner, they need people to get funds, they need people on ground, there is people in operation. They're just like any other organization. They just can't pull the profit out, and that's the only difference. So I think if an organization has to really scale, sustain, and do an impact, it needs to have capacity building. It needs to have funds which are kind of sustainable. And I think having unrestricted funding, which is retail or I give, is what we really thought, with a pipeline of different partners who can partner and have multi-year partnerships. And I think that is the approach we have taken. Another very interesting approach what we have taken is we work with large organization as well as very grassroots level organization. Grassroots level organization find very difficult because of the way compliance is, and they're not aware of that. So what we do is we connect them to the larger organizations within the CSR. Of course, in FCRA, the subletting is not allowed, but can you tie up with bigger organizations? So there's a funding on ground. There's actual connection and touch and feel on ground because they know the people they work in. So there are different models that we have applied where it brings in sustainability, both from an organization and impact.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Capacity building and working with a diverse set of partners, that's what we get, right, to ensure that there's long-term sustainability of these projects. Moving on to the next question. So you work with over 600 plus NPOs. That is a big number. How does Metta Social ensure that there is transparency in its partnership? Also, like, what role does data-driven reporting play in maintaining accountability and maximizing impact?
Anil, you want to take that one?
So maybe I'll have Vishal, especially the data part. Yeah, Vishal, would you? Or...
Yeah, sure. So I think one of the things many people ask us, what do you sell in a social sector? So we usually say we don't sell, we bring in trust and transparency. And I think that's the core ethos of Metta Social, because I think in social, I think the biggest gap when we talk about gaps is a psychological distance that we have between people. Initially, can I trust this organization in terms of giving funds, giving time, and would it benefit? Is this the right organization? Are they going to use the funds right? And this thing. The other is transparency. Once I've given funds, are they going to use it right, for the purpose which is given? Are they going to tell us what is happening? And I think that was a very important aspect. And especially, we work with a lot of global MNCs now, and they're very, very finicky about working with local partners. And that makes them work with very large NGOs. And there's a lot of amazing other NGOs which are doing work, but don't have the documentation or don't have the reach to reach them. So what we did was we created a 3-level due diligence. We went to like different organization, looked at what some of the certifying bodies, what are they measuring today? We went to Tata Sustainability, how do we do that? Went to people groups like Bajaj and others who are doing large scale projects. And we standardized the whole due diligence, which is there. And we did it at a 3-level due diligence. One is a 60 parameter technology, which assesses your existence, legal, impact, capacity to everything, which is there. Second is we created an internal team who really understands sector, because it's just not about technology. This sector is also about a touch and feel in terms of. And the third, if there's a large project, we have external partners where the data actually moves from the technology systems and with their consent, and we get that. I think that has helped us really standardize the process. So no matter once an organization comes on our platform, they can share the same reports with any of the partners that are onboarded, any of the corporates, I think, which is very, very important. And I think what we did is we looked at 33 lakh NGOs. There are about 2.5, 3 lakh which do file income tax, not necessarily pay. Of that, we curated 80,000, then 5,000 very detailed from public-private resources in terms of. And then at our cost, we onboarded 600 of them and really doing a thorough due diligence, looking at financial forensics, looking at how expenses is done, and we have been able to kind of get that. And I think that was the first element pan-India, so we are able to do. And we've created our own kind of a blanket which now for any organization, because every organization may require different sub-thematic or intervention in any part of India. So we've got our own Blinkit because we've got a 80,000 NGO database and a process to set where within 2 to 3 weeks in any region of India, we can actually get you nonprofits, completely due diligence, which you can trust and who would deliver, not just trust, deliver that transparency on the implementation to the impact assessment, having geotagged and other technologies being used there. So Anil, probably you can add to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Vishal. I think you have covered quite a lot. So what we are trying to do, a lot of people have tried, look at in the past, having these listing platforms or having this static directory, which is there. And even the government has, tried putting it at one place. And we found that doesn't work. And that is where I think as a platform, we have to be far more, in creating a more dynamic, more tailored, and a more responsive sort of a system. And what Vishal used the word as Blinkit, because 600 is too small a number from a India perspective. When we talk of even 200,000 to nearly 700,000 is the minimum number that people talk. So in that universe, how do you get what the corporate needs from a corporate CSR perspective? So we have two aspects. One is from an employee point of view, which is I give, and the volunteering side, and where there is a different, sort of approach. And other is I'm talking specifically from the corporate point of view. So their needs are pretty specific. I need in these thematic areas, I need these in this geographical area, I need with this sort of a capacity or size or their ability. And of course, I need who are, compliant from a statutory perspective. So from that point of view, there's 80,000, NGO data that we have, got. From that, using this Blinkit sort of a methodology, a corporate needs, we are able to pull out the right organization, onboard them. So rather than being a listing platform where anybody and everybody, come in, and then we do this due diligence process, which Vishal mentioned, I think it's a pretty gold standard. Having been in the social sector, I've seen, a lot of people are doing pretty good job in from assessing, NGO point of view or giving them certifications or ratings, etc. But again, those are not dynamic. They are, at some point of time given. What a corporate needs is today, is this NGO capable of delivering what I want it to be, delivering? So that's what, from a selection of NGOs perspective we use. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dhankher. So with Metta Social now operating internationally in countries like the Philippines and the UK, how do you localize your technology solutions to address unique social and cultural challenges within these regions compared to India?
Yeah, so I think India operates quite differently. The maturity of Indian market is quite different. So we've looked at the giving index globally. So India has jumped quite a lot from being in the 80s to now being in the 10s, I think 14 on giving index. But if you look at UK, France, Europe, US, then the top giving this thing, Indonesia as well in terms of this thing. And the needs are quite different. So in India, it's roti kapda makan in terms of this thing. So if you go to the Europe, it's mental health. It's about refugee crisis and it's this thing. There are local aspects of it that we want to fund from a labor and other aspects of it, which is there. And they also want to fund countries in Africa and things which is doing. So when we looked at India, we looked at CSR and like engage as a option to kind of go and engage in terms of, and in India, you need a funnel to be created for people to be really drawn to a cause. When we looked at Europe, it's the other way around because you have giving as a primary because people, the capacity to give as well. So in India, it's about $5. You go to Southeast Asia, $15, it's $25 kind of average in Europe. Giving becomes your funnel and that gets you to volunteering and other aspects of it. So we looked at that. Second, from a maturity perspective here, I think what Anil was talking about, India, of course, there are a lot of listing platforms in this thing. There, you need to be more engaged. A lot of things is community led. So how do you involve a community in driving that, both from a corporate and other aspect? So I think within the technology space, what we have done is we have not just looked at how do you create giving pledges or sustainability pledges. How do you create micro communities, and can those micro communities drive giving circles? And I think that has been a key change at looking at was not just a catalog with a lot of things this thing, because I think in the mature markets or even in India, when you look at, it's not like Amazon where you're going to buy a phone, right? It's not something a burning need, but it's where somebody refers you something and then you go there. So we have taken a very community driven approach there in the mature markets. In India, we're starting with engagement and giving and then moving to that in terms of what you're doing. I think that's a key approach. It's also data led in terms of driving more behavioral science based aspects, which is what we are focused on. Iftekhar, Anil, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, very quickly, two aspects that we missed out. I think we had just few minutes. So what we look at is one is the Marcom bit and telling, creating narratives out of the social effort that corporates take. So Meta has been working, especially no one else, I think, in the country is working. We have a specific department that works on Marcom, creating stories, because you need to walk the talk and then talk the walk as well. So that is one part we're doing. The other is the thought leadership. So we are very keen on that. So we're working with a lot of academia. So we're working with IIT Kanpur and, national and international universities. So to create where will the philanthropy pivot? Because if you look at today, there is $43 trillion that's being handed over from the last generation to the new generation. And the first time there are 5 generations living together in the universe. So there is the new philanthropist is very different. He's open to risk capital. He's open to give money for systemic building and stuff like that. So the entire scenario as far as philanthropy is changing, and Meta is seeing how it can add the maximum value to the scenario today in India and abroad.
Thank you. Thank you. My next question is, could you share insights into large-scale initiatives like the Stellantis Disaster Relief Project and the SMFG India Data Go program? How do you measure their success in terms of both social impact and business value for your partners?
Yeah. Shall I take?
Yeah.
Please, Anil. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Padashri, from a success of any of the projects that we undertake, before going to that, just want to tell you, when we set Metta Social up, I think what behind Vishal, what is written is let's collaborate for social impact. So we were very clear, when we set up that there are millions of people who are trying to do good, both corporates, individuals, and on the other side, one is the supply side, one is the demand side of it, who are already doing. But they're not able to scale and sustain many a times and get, most, effective or the best efficiency in what they are doing. And apart from that, of course, they did have the other issues of propagation, of corporate reputation, many other things. So when we do these projects, we are very clear, we are not the one who are doing. There is someone who is paying for it, and there is someone who is executing, this particular thing. However, there are issues in terms of the right, doer and right giver matching. There are issues of trust there, whether my work will be, done in the right way, intended way, and make the intended, impact and effect. Of course, here I don't want to talk about those LFAs and monitoring evaluation, the input, output, outcomes, impact, etc. Perspective. But I think the success has to be measured from a various angles. So there is an angle of a beneficiary. So what is really the beneficiary, getting out of that? From a corporate perspective, when we say corporates have their own objectives, both from CSR or social citizenship perspective, what they want to do, but also somewhere they want an alignment with their business so that it enhances their reputation, it enhances their brand, loyalty or the connects, etc. There is also success measured from a stakeholder perspective. where the government is a stakeholder, people around wherever these corporates are working, they are the stakeholders, and many other, stakeholders that come in. So I think the success has to be measured. It can be measured from a financial, angle, social return on the equity perspective. So here we as Metta Social do help in these large scale, projects. First, implementing it right, capturing the data right from call it the last mile or a first mile, we call it for a frontline, from there. Thereafter, reporting it back, analyzing it, and any other, support that the donor or supply side needs from us. So we are able to either do it ourselves or through our partner network, able to provide them, whether it's a monitoring evaluation, whether it's an impact assessment, whether it's a SOR, SRY, etc., to be done. Vishal, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think, of course, we have the LFA and the result-based framework, and you can do right from plan versus actual indicators and everything that you're measuring. But I think taking just example of two Stellantis and SMFG, I think I'll give you very two different approaches where we have looked at structure. One is Stellantis is right from the design. We designed it because it was 20 locations, very remote areas. So we had an anchor partner with a specific kind of mandate in terms. We got 20 kind of grassroots level NGOs because they are the ones who are there in those areas, can make that happen over a person being sent over from Pune or Mumbai there. So we created a network of networks and a system on top of it to measure that things are actually happening between the partners, because having one partner coordinate with 20 partners could be this thing. So we have a dedicated success manager, and the technology ensures the data is coming in terms of that, and it is being used. And then based on the frequency, we agreed with the client reporting that. So we created a beautiful impact report in terms of what has happened right from 3 months, although it does take few years to show the impact, but how is it actually changing? Can we do something on that? And that is the approach we taken with Stellantis. On SMFG side, what we looked at is one of the projects was mobile medical units, right? MMUs. Now, the challenge was actually collecting last mile data or the first mile data, where you're doing hundreds of patient screening every day and get that. And each of the projects are different. So if you go to a different location, getting where it's offline, there's no connection, where it's able to automatically don't depend on the user to kind of input things. It picks up the location, picks up certain things, doesn't make them write things, very intuitive, because these are applications would be used by someone who don't know beyond WhatsApp to use things. So make it very completely dumb and they can use it. And I think that has been a success of getting that real-time data. And of course, then the whole LFA and other analysis kind of kicks in. So I think these are very two approaches where we saw large scale this thing. And I think thanks to this now very large organizations, I think thanks to this case studies, which is approaching us to do that. Yeah.
Just to,
Thank you. Yes.
on this second project, SMFG that you're talking, so they have with these, vans across 10 states, and 17 different districts. And they have two, key projects. One is on the health awareness side of it. Another one is on the eye care and eye checkup side. And they screen over 100,000, patients a year. So it's a humongous as far as, from a number that is there and the impact that can in those areas. So where at the frontline level, Metta Social, our app and our platform help them capture it and really verify whether it is being done at the the place where they are saying they are doing. It's done to the person whom they are saying is the person. So using technology, using geotagging, a lot of other things to ensure that the right beneficiaries get the benefit. Thank you.
Thank you. Three very vital points, made here: trust, making sure that, you have the right giver and the right doer, because that's something that is very simple, yet very difficult to achieve. And of course, making applications accessible for everybody. So I think three very important and vital points made for all organizations working in the social sector space. Moving on to our next question. So Incorporating employee engagement into CSR efforts is becoming increasingly vital. And so, how does Metta Social's Engage Exit program enhance employee participation in volunteering and giving? What measurable impact have you seen in this area?
Yeah, so again, from a corporates, when they were doing only CSR, this was confined to few people, getting the 2% of the money, giving it out, and not being able to involve the larger universe. And that universe is not just employees, actually. We see, all other stakeholders of the organization. It could be customers, it could be, vendors who are providing, etc. But coming back to from a employee engagement part, and I've been in HR for very long, and I say most of HR engagement is around some celebrations, some entertainment. So it's more of that rather than a deeper, purposeful, or meaningful engagement. And I think that is what many times in the work when we do, everybody doesn't find so much of a meaning in work. We work because we need money, we need to, run our house and, various other this thing. So in that case, how do you provide opportunities for these people? And that's what you're saying, how the participation in, volunteering programs, etc., is so low, so minuscule when you, go to any corporate. And I have, sat on the other side of the table, the same usual suspects who will be there in every program and, who will participate in that. Now here, we are missing a huge opportunity of engaging, larger, because if they participate and they become ambassadors for that, cause, as well as for that organization, I think impact itself will be very, very large. But how do you do that? I think the biggest, saying is very easy. So how do we provide the opportunities where they want to go and do things? How do we provide opportunities where they want to go and, do? Sitting in one part of the town, if we end up organizing something in the other part of the, town, then that won't happen. How do we bring in technology? Not necessarily a person has to travel, yet can do social good, sitting. How do we bring in gamification to, get them quickly adopt and thereafter create that stickiness so that the person, comes back and stays. So that part of it, tracking, reporting, because unless that happens, how do we integrate it with the skill development where a person finds it not just it is useful for the corporate or it is just for a purpose perspective, but when I go on ground and do some good work, it adds to my skills, my collaborative skills, team skills, adds to my leadership skills, etc. And many times, some of the things that employees when they go, they get as this sense of gratitude, the empathy that gets developed, and which today many times is so much missing from a cutthroat corporate world point of view. There, that alignment, which is to come with the organizational values, etc. So I think this engagement is much deeper. We can connect with DEI. We can connect with the positive, impact on the employee, well-being and satisfaction, because that's so important. Today, we see such, issues happening where we hear either people under stress end up becoming unwell, or many cases depressed and end up taking some steps. On the other hand, this also impacts the productivity in a big way. So how do we integrate the social giving? And giving, when I'm saying, is your time, talent, and treasure. And this time and talent is equally or even more important than the treasure. Treasure will come, if people get engaged into such things. So that's what we are, trying to build or bring, use of behavioral science, creating, micro communities. So there are various approaches that, we are taking. Vishal, if you want to add something.
Yeah. So I think just two aspects, I think, taking from where Captain Anil spoke. I think two aspects from our approach. What we have created is we've created a go-to employee kind of a framework, which integrates with the core CSR and the ESG or the sustainability kind of strategy of organization, looking at business outcomes and not just social outcomes. And it actually has 3Ds, right? From discovering, because every organization culture and things is different. Every organization demographics is different. So having a discovery, design, and a delivery aspect backed by technology, which enables purely three things, three simple. Not looking at volunteering. First is opportunity. Is there opportunity to the employees for interacting, rather than saying this is this thing that you should do? It's an opportunity, skill, get leadership skills, get on ground skills, something that really you're passionate about. Second is events, right? Whether it's virtual, hybrid, offline, which is there, we enable that through different micro communities. This is technology driven, very engaging in terms of what we're doing. And the last is the rewards and recognition, right? Beyond the badges, when we say gamification, right? Really having gamification of things which can really drive being able to share and propagate what they're doing internally and externally. And that is what in kind of very short. Yeah.
Fantastic. Moving on to the last question. In the rapidly growing tech for good sector, how do you see Metta Social standing out? And what are the long-term goals you're working towards to ensure sustainable and scalable impact globally?
Yeah, I think one, from a tech for good, social good space, what we're looking is, I think there are amazing organizations who have been doing this for the last 20 years or 30 years, which is there. I think one of the things what we get is the latest cutting edge technology, which helps you to do things more simpler, faster, more intuitively. So we are bringing in conversational bots, which will do audio-based conversations, which is catering to the Gen Z, which is going to be like 20-30% of the organization, which is there. The other aspect is bringing in newer ways of interacting with the users, right? Because one is inside the organization. It should not be pushed upon you. How can you do pull? So if you are kind of integrating that in your everyday life. And I think social is something everyone wants to do, but they are not dedicating time to that. So how can we use technology to give the right option at the right time anywhere is what we are integrating. And I think the biggest differentiator is having a technology which is very specific to a need rather than just being a workflow automation. I think over the years, it's been more of work-based automation, just like the ERP or the CRMs, which is there. We are bringing the intelligence, right? The behavioral science, the aspects of it, which actually creates engagement. Because one of the biggest challenges, and I think Anil will agree to that, is to drive any new initiative in an organization with 5,000, 10,000, it's too much of an overhead with limited budgets. So our technology helps you create that adoption at a very, very affordable price, and without the HR really taking the whole kind of a load of driving that. And that's the key that we see, where communities of employees drive this thing using the technology rather than intervention, which is top down.
Yeah, just to add to that, what I would say that if you look at the Metta's vision, we want to become an international organization. And we're looking at maybe 20. So we've already drawn a list of 10 countries which are high on the giving index. But working around the globe with maybe 20 countries where you could do philanthropy within and outside all these. So that's what we're doing. So one of the experiments that we've just initiated, and Vishal and we were in the UK, where we're seeing there is a lot of money from the UK corridor that goes to Africa, a lot of projects happening there. So how we could get in tech for good interventions within that space on the ground, because everyone needs to capture. If you look at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, there are 7 levels that the money goes from one hand to the other, and you don't have a clear visibility is what's happening on the ground. So capturing the last mile and getting that visibility and MIS from the ground up is what we also aspire to do. And then to work with philanthropists, I mean, the ultra HNIs, and see how they could help build systemic, interventions. So these are the things that you asked about the future. So that is what we're looking at. Obviously, technology is something which is at the core. And how once we get out of India for Metta is more of a model where you have tech and brick and mortar together, because that's what you need. But once you go out, then it has to be product led, which Vishal and the team is now working on cutting edge technologies to see how a SaaS product tech project that could help the philanthropists around the globe and corporations and foundations to do the mission in the most possible, fastest and the cheapest way to get the needle to move as well. So that's what the vision is going forward.
Thank you so much. That should be all. Thank you a lot for joining us today for this very meaningful discussion. We wish our best to Metta Social to continue with its phenomenal work, and we look forward to interacting with you again in the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.